So I was gifted a huge video game collection by a friend since I showed interest in a game that they so happened to have. So they decided to give me their entire collection as well since they wanted to give it to someone who would actually enjoy the games and play them, not just sit them on a shelf so they could be a display for a collection. So, with this huge list of games, I kind of wanted to make a progress log of how it was going and giving some of my thoughts on said games. The first ones to start with are Ninja Gaiden 2 OG release on the 360 and Hardcore's Uprising. Since I'm pretty fond of action games, Bayonetta being my favorite, my friend really thought I would take an interest in Ninja Gaiden 2 since I've never played any of them. Thought it would be more my style. And I was known that Ninja Gaiden 2 was known to be really hard, and I was up for the challenge. The dismemberment mechanic was a neat part that was built into the combat with enemies trying to suicide bomb you if they get too close to you, so you have to finish them off with a heavy attack. This also works on bosses as well. It was a great way to keep me on my toes and paying attention during mob fights. When I finally got into the flow of combat, it was pretty fun. The second boss fight was a huge wall that I had hit, but it was also a great experience that forced me to learn the game and pay attention, and I found it a very nice challenge. However, this game has some cons that may not be big in the grand scheme, but they made the overall experience worse for me. I know this game was made back in 2008, and I kinda want to cut it some slack, but I just can't ignore a lot of this stuff here that irks me. The way the combos were performed were pretty cumbersome, and you can't really practice them outside of a fight. A training room would have really helped. I don't like how slow Ryu's running speed was. It just made it feel overall a lot slower. Getting hit from attacks by enemies off screen is never fun. There's no lock-on unless during boss fights, and even then the lock-on is really shitty. There also don't seem to be any kind of telegraphs for enemies' attacks. I might be wrong here, but I know the second boss only telegraphs his charge attack, which is just annoying. Sure, games like these are about learning the enemies so you can better fight them. However, the fact that they just seem to throw out attacks with no telegraphs just makes that learning experience a lot more frustrating, and I don't really feel like putting up with that, especially for an extended period of time with the kind of combat that I'm not really into all that much. And when we got to the end, I wasn't really feeling the game, so about when we returned to the temple, that's when I started just running past a lot of these enemies because I didn't want to deal with them. And I was actually surprised that the game just let me. Sure, I finished with a low score, but the fact that I could just ignore them kinda shows their design philosophy, and I can respect that. Overall, my experience with Ninja Gaiden 2 was alright. I might play it again. The way this game was pitched to me was Arc System Works made a Contra game. Originally, I wasn't planning to play this game, but my friend showed me the Sayori DLC character that only uses a sword. It intrigued me, so I decided to play the arcade mode where you get to upgrade your character over time. Since my friend had already upgraded the other two characters fully, I decided to fully upgrade Sayori since she was only at 9% with all of her upgrades bought. I have to say, I loved this game. The levels took me a while at first, but after I earned enough stuff to buy more upgrades, replaying the levels to get a higher score and getting hit less was actually a fun gameplay loop. I was looking on some forums and I kept seeing that Sayori was broken. Given the fact that she can completely melt through bosses' health bars, it kinda seems that they were right, especially when you get the damage upgrades. She can't switch weapons or anything, and she only has one projectile attack by charging up her blade, so Arxis really made a good use out of her moveset. The levels always try and add a new gimmick to keep each of the 8 stages fresh. Stage 1 has quicksand, Stage 2 has poison flowers that strip away your movement abilities, Stage 6 has you riding a train switching cars at the top and the bottom of the screen. The music is so good I looked it up after I finished the game, and it took me about 4 days, but I beat the game with Sayori and got all the upgrades to 100%. Overall, my experience with Hardcore Uprising, it was fantastic. It's a crime that this game is stuck on the PS3 and 360 digital stores. And yeah, that's at least the first 2 games that I've gotten through. The next, I'm going to be finishing up Gravity Rush 2 on the PS4, and then I'm going to be moving on to Beautiful Joe 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2. I'm Mr. SP, thank you for watching and see you next time.